Hey guys, sorry for the delay on this one here. So let's finish up a look at the 1950s and the Cold War with kind of the 1950s lifestyle. And one of the biggest things in the 50s is something called the American Dream. Now, people talk about the American Dream a lot. What is the American Dream? It was basically what life was supposed to be, what you were supposed to do and work towards in the 50s, and was attainable to a lot of people. First thing was a good job. Okay, a good job, usually white collar job, business type job. Uh, or a job that you had a chance for a promotion, a chance for you to get in the ground floor and eventually one day be the boss. Big part of this too is owning a home. Obviously, all the suburbs that were going on, the GI Bill available, owning your own home was available now too. And so you want to own your own home in a good community. That meaning a suburb, not the city, a suburb. Also, look at good schools. Good schools for your kids, chance for your kids to prosper. And lastly, economic security. That meaning a good, solid job. Not working a job here, a job there. Not working, uh, you know, day labor kind of stuff. A good, solid job with a good company. It was important. Domestic stuff. Ike, that being Dwight D. Eisenhower, kept a lot of the New Deal programs. So he was a Democrat, kept a lot of New Deal things in there for New Deal programs that like Roosevelt did, like Harry Truman did, so on and so forth. Um, but he did create some new things. He created a new department for health, education, and welfare. So a federal department that worked for health, education, welfare to make sure that everyone was healthy, that schools were working the way they're supposed to, and that the welfare programs like Social Security and so on and so forth were working and doing their things. We also see minimum wage stick during this time, and we kind of start seeing obviously the first ideas of minimum wage came out in the New Deal. But for example, where minimum wage was at this point in the early 50s, around 1950 or so, minimum wage was 75 cents an hour. By the end of the 50s, 1960, it's buck 25. So obviously the government is kind of still regulating the economy, still really getting influence into business kind of stuff. We had the big highway project on there. That was a big public work project paid for by the federal government. It was a $32 billion public works project. So think New Deal esque kind of thing like that. Also, he created all these little dots on here. These are all different little color dots on this map on the bottom here. These are all locks on the St. Lawrence Seaway, hooking up the Atlantic Ocean all the way down here to Lake Michigan. Really important for us here in Wisconsin because this now opened up Milwaukee and Green Bay as international ports. Now ships could go all the way from big ships, we're talking monster ships, could go from the Atlantic Ocean all the way to Milwaukee, Green Bay, and so on and so forth. A big thing for us here in Wisconsin. Now the economy during this time was great. It was awesome. Honestly, it's probably the highest, as of that time in history, by far the highest standard of living. I mean, look right here, looking at where our economic growth rate was here, it was actually the highest. Right here is the 50s, really the highest, except for the late 40s here, 40s and the 50s, the highest growth of this time. Inflation does go up because of so much money, so many products out there. But incomes went up with it. So actually prices, incomes went up. People are earning more money. The GI Bill is going on here. What always happens because of this GI Bill is a big part of it. People are buying houses now. Okay, so you have to pay people to build the houses. That's one thing. You also, after you build your house, you need to fill your house with stuff. So you have to buy all the furniture, all the appliances, all those kind of things is a big part of it. I mean, to put this into perspective this time, in the 1950s, the U.S. had about 6% or so of the entire world population, but they consumed over half of the world's goods. We became consumers during the 50s. And so we had new things to fill the houses. We had TV, big thing of it, okay? TV becomes affordable by the 50s where by the end of the 50s, almost every family has at least one TV. It's not like today where you have like 8 in one house. I mean, but you had one TV living room, usually black and white, usually pretty small yet. Your big stations, you probably have 3 channels, ABC, NBC, CBS, and they all put the same programs, countrywide. I Love Lucy, a big sitcom at the time. Leave It to Beaver, Howdy Doody, all those kind of programs that were out there. Other new improved technology, you have computers. The picture here, guys, that is a computer that was developed in the 50s. I mean, so computers are around for government stuff, doing complex equations, those kind of things. I mean, the computers at this time were the size of a room. I mean, a 250 megabyte hard drive was probably the size of a couch. And today you can put more information on a scan on an SD card, but whatever. Um, TVs, huge thing. Okay, idea of TVs. Electric ranges, electric stoves versus gas, washers and dryers. All these kind of things were being developed at this time, and people are snapping up, buying it up like crazy. The baby boom. Okay, those picture here. It's kind of crazy. Okay, baby boom wise, you have one baby being born every like 18 seconds in the United States. For every 1,000 women in the country, there are 123 births for every 1,000 women. In perspective of that, there are about 58 births per 1,000 women today. That means that more than half, 50 times more babies are being born this time. And that also fueled the economy. Think about it. When you got kids being born left and right, gotta build hospitals, gotta build houses because you have those kids, gotta build schools for those kids. People gotta be teachers, people gotta be college professors, toys, clothing, all these things. All these things got to be made, so all these people got to work at it. Cassie's generation, the baby boom generation, is anyone born between 1945 and 1960, 1962. And you can tell how many people births there were at the time. We're talking millions of people being born here at this point. I mean, my parents' generation, being born around 1950, is right at the start of this baby boomer generation. And because these kids were being born at this time, so many kids around, you had to have more activities for them too. I mean, school became more social. I mean, school sports, school clubs became more of a big deal. Sports, scouts, little league, all those kind of things. And school became a place where people really hang out. Think like the movie Grease, if you've seen it. It was more than just a place to go learn and come home. It was a very social place. You hung out there. You enjoyed your time there. You had friends there. It provided activities like all the sporting events, that kind of stuff. Even TV became more for the kids. Shows like Mickey Mouse Club, How Do You Do, which was about a puppet, that kind of stuff became really big at this time. Medicine too. All these kids being born. More kids are surviving because of penicillin. Penicillin and antibiotics allow people to overcome infections like tonsillitis, strep throat that 20 years earlier could have killed kids. But the biggest scare at the time was still polio. Polio being a disease that FDR had. It makes your muscles contract, and in some cases, it can't even breathe. It affects your chest muscles. The picture here shows kids in iron lungs. Iron lungs were designed to help kids breathe and keep their chest going up and down. Polio was huge in the 50s. I mean, there were times in cities where you could not leave your yard because polio was so easy to spread between people. The guy in the picture here, Dr. Jonas Salk, was the guy who basically developed the polio vaccine and saved a lot of kids' lives that would have been taken by polio otherwise, or they had to stay in these iron lungs until polio was fixed. Even how he raised kids changed. Dr. Benjamin Spock, not Star Trek guy, a different guy, wrote this book about baby and child care. Kind of a psychologist look at how parents should be raising their kids. And it kind of affected, gender roles away because they said mothers need to be nurturing their babies, okay? Mothers need to stay home, not work as they had during the wars, that kind of thing, and be more nurturing, be more loving, not be, strict. If you screw up, we're gonna kick your butt, kind of raising. More about, nurturing and not being as strict and disciplined, those kind of things. Now, as we see the 50s go on here, more kids are being born. People want to get out of the cities. I have a couple of pictures and graphs. I mean, you have these suburbs being built around cities like this here, like Levittown, we talked about outside New York. And by the 50s, 1 out of every 5 people in the United States lives in some kind of suburb. Well, why do you want to leave the cities? Well, first off, they're cramped, they're congested. There's a lot of crime, a lot of fire issues, that kind of stuff going on in the cities. And some of it's racial, too. We call it white flight. People who could afford to move out of the city, usually white, had better jobs, those kind of things, and they chose not to live by minorities that were moving into the cities. And so they moved to the suburbs, especially suburbs in California, New Mexico, the Southwest, called the Sun Belt. I mean, here's a little graph here that shows just how many people left Milwaukee for the Milwaukee suburbs from 1950 here up until 1990, and the numbers are just huge. Now, obviously, this hurts the cities because now, as people leave the cities, a lot of money leaves the cities. That way, you can't fix the cities. The cities start getting kind of that slummy kind of feel to it. Also, less farms this way. People that were living on farms moved to these suburbs as well. Quit farming. A lot less family farms around. So these really huge, big farms that had 10,000 cattle on them instead. In fact, by 1960, only 6% of people in the country are actually living on farms at that point. Cars become really important because of this. Because so many people live outside the city, they have to drive everywhere. In the city, you could walk, take buses, take trains, take subways, whatever. You needed a car living in the suburbs to get where you had to go, get to work in the morning, get to wherever. And so car ownership doubled, honestly. Twice as many people owned cars in the 50s as they did in the 40s. Also, teenagers started getting cars. It became more common for teenagers to do cars, and it wasn't just, excuse me, a mean of transportation. Now it's fun. You start seeing sports cars like, um, more powerful sports cars, hot rods, those kind of things develop that are fun to drive, and people are driving more for fun. Because of the roads, the highways, you can now travel different places and enjoy traveling. You couldn't do this during World War II because of the gas rationing. So now the war is done. You enjoy your time, travel around, drive around, enjoy life that way. Because people spend so much more time in the cars now, you see the development of fast food like Mickey D's. I mean, Mickey D's was developed in the 50s. McDonald Brothers started in California. They said, okay, you need quick food because you're in your car, you're traveling. So mass-produced things. Only thing on the original McDonald's menu was burgers, fries, shakes, soda, and coffee. That was it. This guy named Ray Kroc came around. He was a shake machine salesman from Chicago, and he basically bought the McDonald's name and started the idea of franchising. Franchise means that, yeah, it's a home company, but you basically sell the rights to the name to individual owners. And he started franchising McDonald's all around the country. And as people started traveling more now, they could go to a McDonald's. I mean, think about it. You want to trust, this place you never heard of? When you go to McDonald's anywhere, you get the same thing. I mean, I was on a trip with a class trip to a place, and you kind of find where you want to go eat. Well, let's go to Subway. Let's go to McDonald's. Well, why do you go there? You know what the food's going to be like. You're not going to get a surprise when you order something. And so you have the same name, same food, you pay for the name basically, and you start seeing the massive franchise start. That massive franchise does start with McDonald's. In the 50s, you start seeing things like Taco Bell, even Pizza Hut, those kind of things come around as well in terms of franchising restaurants where you kind of know what you're going to get and you're all going to be getting the same thing. Now, Parsons advertising here too. Advertising starts in the 50s to advertise all these new goods and new foods and those kind of things around. And Madison Avenue in New York was the big advertising area. This is where all the big advertising agencies were at Madison and 42nd. If you've seen the AMC show Mad Men, that's what these guys were. Their job was to sell stuff. And they would find any way through magazines, print, newspaper, and especially the new medium of TV. And if you see the ads here, things like more doctors smoke Camels than any other cigarettes. Yes, cigarette ads were huge. Coca-Cola, selling, focusing on who they start using psychology in a way too to figure out how to get people to buy stuff. How would you convince somebody to buy something they really don't need? Anything from vacuums to cars, washing and dryers, toys, food items, even like new things like frozen food and that kind of stuff became a big deal. And Madison Avenue advertisers. Women in the 50s is a big deal here too. You start seeing the stereotype in the 50s develop as a proper place for women being in the home, being the homemaker. And usually, unless you were in the very poor classes, women were discouraged from working. They didn't receive equal pay. My grandmother said, she worked until she got married, and then she was done working. That was it. After she got married, she did not work anymore because she was told she wasn't supposed to. Women received about half the pay a man did at the time, and even going to college is out of the question. Even at the time there, when women went to college in the 50s, it was more about, hey, can I go there and meet a husband? A lot of women would start college and not graduate because it was kind of that expectation of, well, it's not going to need it. Women were more linked to their husband this time, and their success. So if women, the idea was women did good work at home, the husband's going to benefit and make things better there. So you're responsible for all the household duties, cooking, cleaning, raising the kids, all that kind of stuff, taking care of the husband, those kind of things. In fact, one of the things printed this time was something called the Good Wife's Guide, which said what to do for men to be a good wife. Like, have dinner ready when he gets home. Let him know you've been thinking about him. Keep the kids away. Let him get 15 minutes for a nap. Those kind of things. Be happy around him. Don't bother him with your problems. I mean, honestly, by the 60s roll around, 90% of mothers say they didn't want daughters to have the same life they had. This is part one, guys. We'll come in part two. Thanks a lot.